So this is going to be a full teardown video of a Vertical 5 made by Greenwald Industries. And this is a little coin chute thing that was pulled out of a Vend Rite soap dispenser. And I have this basically at a level where you would have it if you already took it out of the soap dispenser. If you're getting this unit from some other machine, it might be in a slightly different configuration. But there's a handful of different pieces involved in this. And the reason you might need to take this apart is if it gets dirty and it starts sticking. And just from general observations, I will say that it doesn't look like these use any kind of lubrication. I would suspect that's because pocket change tends to be kind of dirty and gross. But anyways, the first thing that will come out when you take this apart is this little door that blocks the quarters from being yanked out when it's all the way in. Oops. Basically, this piece slides back and forth. Oh boy. Oops. Grabbed more than I wanted. Slides back and forth into this channel here. There we go. As you can see, this doesn't have quarters in it, so it's not in the right spot, so it's not going to slide over, unfortunately. But yeah, so these pieces will come out first. You got to be mindful of the orientation they go in. From there, the little sliding piece that holds the quarters, they'll just come out loose. And there's some bits and bobs that you'll need to be mindful of. This is spring loaded here. And then these screws are what holds the little plugs that you use to change the value. Oops, wrong screwdriver bit. When it comes to cleaning this, I would probably use like a bristled brush, and anything I'm unsure of, usually my go-to is glass cleaner. I'm just going to set those off to the side in a way that's logical, hopefully. I imagine under this cover, after enough uses, things would probably start collecting under here. Looks like this little tab isn't really matter how it's put in, so just a matter of remembering to put the spring back on this little peg here when you put it back in. Oops, and I was not expecting that. This little brass pin here goes in this hole right there, and one side's bigger than the other, so the bigger side obviously is what fits in that hole, like that. Don't want to lose that either. But as you can see, this is kind of dirty. Not that bad. I have another one that's actually worse, and it still functions as intended as far as I can tell. I cycled it a few times just messing around. But yeah, I'm just using some random brand glass cleaner and just give us a wipe down. As you can see, some of that discoloration went away. My assumption is that this is chrome plated zinc die cast. I wouldn't be able to tell without taking a grinder to it. It could also be cast aluminum, but instinct is telling me in this case it's probably actually zinc die cast. But yep, so as you can see though, just a little simple wipe. That thing's really shiny now. There's some bubbling in the chrome finish. Alright, let's dig into this deeper here. I think I'm going to move this first. This looks like this is going to get scary. I think I'm going to start with the top bit. Start with these two side screws here. And I'm just kind of piling the various modules in the sides of off frame. Just trying to figure out what's holding this on. There we go. Just friction bit. Another piece here that can be removed. Looks like a guide for the quarters. Oh, and those are number 1 Phillips screws, not number 2. So, grab my smaller bit. A little springy, or not spring here, just a bent piece of wire that flips back and forth. And this looks like it could go in either way, so not too much to worry about there. This spring bit, or I don't know why I keep calling it spring, this metal wire here, that's going to be tricky to remove. You're going to want a flathead screwdriver, looks like, and you pry it apart. I'm not going to remove that just because there's no benefit for at least this video. I don't imagine this top part's going to get too dirty either. So here we got the little drops for the quarters. The quarters will push up against this and allow the unit to go through further. We can demonstrate by doing that. And since there's no quarters there, there's nothing to push these bits down, and it's catching on those hooks, I believe. Just looking to see how that lines up. Yeah, I believe they're hitting on that point there. I don't know if I'll be able to show with it in there though. Oh yeah, now you can tell, yeah. So there's nothing to push those down. And that's what stops it from going all the way in. I imagine these could get jammed up over time because the quarter slots, as you see, go right over that portion. And to remove this, I have to remove these 2 screws here. But I just remembered this piece here on the side is just sitting loose. I don't know. Nope, only goes in one way. I'm not sure what that does even. Let's find out. I think it's just a guide. Yeah, it's just a guide to keep this sliding piece centered. And it only goes in one way, so yeah. Let's see what happens if that's not installed. Yeah, it's just more of an alignment thing. There's probably a reason for it. There's probably different designs of these units. But yeah, to get these little locking bits out, gotta have to remove these 2 screws. And then there's a shaft that they sit on, which I'm guessing is just loosely fit in there. We will find out. And I'm assuming that this probably only goes one way, so I don't imagine if you flip this the other way that this would operate properly. So definitely keep in mind that this needs to be pointing essentially down towards the front. Nope, I'm not going to pull that out. That is definitely a press fit in there. It's a little smaller on one side, looking like at least. But yeah, those are fixed in there. If they're sticking though, I still would probably remove that plate that's out of frame. I would still probably remove that just so you can get in there with a brush. I don't think I have a brush nearby. Oh, here you go. So you know you can get in here and give it a nice cleaning. Otherwise, you could punch that out and remove these. I'm trying to figure out the springing mechanism. Oh, no, I can't tell actually. Oh, I understand now. So you see these little thin pieces here down the middle? That's the spring. That's keeping these tensions so they're lifted up until a quarter pushes them down. That's interesting. And you can kind of see the back of the spring goes down in there. So it's almost like a big comb with rectangular prongs. But once you get down to this point, as you can see, kind of dirty in there, all that debris from quarters, dirty quarters making its way through. But I'm just going to use my paper towel with a little glass cleaner on it. I wouldn't use water just so you don't cause it to corrode. And I don't think oiling this would be recommended. Pretty dirty there. Because the oil is just going to end up catching the lint. So like if you were to use something like lithium grease, it'd run smoother until that lithium grease gets clogged up full of crap. But yeah, those nooks and crannies are kind of hard to get into. But regular old toothbrush. You probably could also use rubbing alcohol. Rubbing alcohol is another good go-to. I've just found that glass cleaner is usually fairly safe. It doesn't really upset anything. Rubbing alcohol is moderately safe too. You do run the risk of like damaging paint or plastics if they're really fragile. But even then, the electronic stuff that I've wiped down with rubbing alcohol, it's always been fairly sturdy and durable. So, yeah, you know, if you have any issues with jamming, I tear it down to this point, give it a little brush, wipe it down with a little glass cleaner. This one wasn't that dirty, but just for demonstration purposes, you know. You could also potentially hit this with an air compressor as is, but with all the stuff in the way, it might make it hard to get in there. But yeah, so now we're going to reassemble it. We're going to put this back plate back on for the little quarter catches. And making note that it's pointing towards the front, obviously. There we go. Get this little alignment piece back in. And I think I'm going to assemble this next. A little cover. Put the quarter guide back together. Let me just switch back to my number 1 bit. I've got them started far enough at least so it doesn't fall out. Oops, that's not good. There we go. No, I didn't screw up the head. Screwdriver bit slipped. It's starting to get a little wore out. Now I go back to the number 2. Trying to think what I want to do next. Put this back on. Got that where that belongs. And each part uses a different screw, so you want to be mindful of that. Make sure you're using the right ones. Gonna reassemble this next, and I'm gonna put these blanks back in because oops, if I remember which way they go. Otherwise I'm gonna lose them. And I don't know what the next person that buys this from me is, if it ever sells, what they're going to do with it. Got the plate. This plate here, you got to be mindful of it going the right direction. So the side that says up, ironically, goes up if you're holding it like this. And then there's this little indent nub that lines up there. Boy, this thing is sparkling clean. Although I'm getting my grubby fingerprints all over it. And next we'll get this little plate back together. The little tab that sticks out. Keeping in mind that the wider part of this pin goes into that hole there. And this tab here that hooks on to the pin sticking out of the housing. Pull this with a little tension, just like that. Should rotate freely. Take your cover. This will only go on one way because it has to line up with those two pins. It locks everything in place. Put this screw back in here. Trying to get my fingerprints off it as I put more on it. There we go. And then this just slides on through. Whoops. There's nothing to stop it from sliding backwards or out, by the way. Then this little gate, gotta make sure it goes in the right way. It'll only go in one way. If you put it in the wrong way, it won't fit correctly. See how it sits too high now? And it's not actually seated in there. So yeah, and you have to kind of angle the bottom in first for whatever reason. But yeah, so now it's in the right way. And this, I don't think you can put this in the wrong way now. This, gotta make sure the little hook's pointing outwards. So it'll go in like that. And then from there, see if I have a cord around me. If you test it like this, it's gonna be a little bit more difficult than testing it fully assembled. But just to verify functionality, yep, works as intended. And then yeah, just refer to, I'll link to it in the description, but if you have this particular machine, you can refer to the other video I have on how to remove this assembly. But hopefully that's helpful. If you're having issues with this jamming or getting stuck, cleaning it might be your solution. So thanks for watching.